Okay, so let's begin. I have created a folder called CSS practice. Okay, and today we are going to start with CSS. Okay, so what I have done till now is I've just opened the folder in Visual Studio Code, and now I'm going to start the uh, coding. Okay, so when I start with CSS, obviously CSS cannot live alone. It is basically working along with HTML. Okay, so the first thing that I do is create an HTML file, right? And as soon as I do that, I can now use my Visual Studio Code emmet to write a little bit of boilerplate, and let's call it CSS practice. Okay, and that will be my title that will come up on the top of the page. Okay, so now below I'm going to start with CSS. Okay, so let's preview this in a live server. Okay, so right click and open with live server, and as soon as I do that, you can see my live server opens. Now I want to see them both side by side, so I will just drag it to the extreme right and then select Visual Studio Code on the left. Okay, so now both of them I can see together. Okay, so now I will just close this Explorer, and let me just increase the font a little bit. Okay, so now let us begin first. Let's start with let's create a div. Okay, and let's call it let me give it my name. Okay, so as soon as I do that, you can see my name comes up over here. Okay, one thing to note is right now the font is very big because I am in 200% zoom. Okay, that's why it is big. So actual, you can see how much is the font. Okay, so this is the actual font. So but because I want you all to see what is happening, that's why I have zoomed it. Okay, so now the first thing that I do that we will see is how to basically use styles. Okay, so there are three ways of using styles. So we will see the first way. Okay, so the first way is the simplest, that is using the style attribute. Okay, so you just go to any element, and inside that put a style attribute, and you have CSS now. Okay, so now anything you put inside this two quotes, double quotes, is your styles. Okay, now let us do a very simple thing. Let's change the color of this font. Okay, so to change the color of this, the first command that we're going to learn in CSS is color. Okay, now here uh, color, and let's give it red. Okay, so now very important to understand is in any CSS there are the syntax is very important. The first is the key. Okay, so this is the name of the parameter that you're trying to set. Okay, so color is the parameter that you're trying to set, and this is the value that you're setting for that particular parameter. Okay, and both of them are separated by some a character called colon. Okay, so all your CSS styles will have three things, that is your parameter, the value of that parameter separated by colon. Okay, and because I can have multiple such parameters, I need to have semicolon at the end to differentiate between two different parameters. Okay, so this is very important to understand because entire CSS is based on this. Okay, so there is all the CSS parameters will have, sorry, CSS values will have a parameter separated and a value separated by a colon, and once that particular entire parameter is done, you have to separate it by a semicolon. Okay, so let me add uh, uh, another parameter. Okay, so let's say I want to add background color of black. Okay, so you can see what has happened. I have now two parameters. Okay, one is color red and another is background color black. Okay, so this is the second parameter that we are going to study, that is background color. Okay. uh, okay, so you can see now now the complete idea of how this particular thing looks like, right? So basically every CSS key value pair is separated by a semicolon. So every time you want to add a new parameter, you have to put a semicolon to separate it out. Okay, and the key or the parameter and the value should be separated by colon. Okay, so this colon and this semicolon is very important to understand. Okay, so colon is used to separate the key and the value, and the semicolon is used to separate two parameters. Okay, so once this is done, if I save it, you can see what has happened. Okay, so background color is set to black and the text color is set to red. Okay, now this is one way of doing it. The same I can achieve in two different ways, two more ways. Okay, so the second way of doing the same thing, okay, is you can, you know, come to the head. Okay, in fact you can do this anywhere. Okay, but it should be inside the body element or inside the head element. Okay, you cannot have it outside that. Okay, so it should be inside head or inside body. Okay, usually we put all the CSS inside head. Okay, so let's come inside head and let's start the second method, that is using style tag. Okay, so if you remember, I have told you that when we start learning CSS, we will see style tag. Okay, now the style tag contains all the CSS that is there, that you can add in any particular element. Okay, that you can add it over here together. Okay, so let's do the same thing. Okay, so let's now to do this, now here one thing to note is we did not select to which element this style should be applied. Okay, it was automatically selected because because that particular style attribute is to this particular div, so that automatically means this will be applied to that particular div only. Okay, but let's suppose I want to apply the same style to multiple places. Okay, so what should I do? Like for example, let me have another div. Okay, so let me take another name. Okay, so now you can see I have Arun and I have my name. Okay, but the style is applied in only one of them, so that's why only one particular element is having that particular style. Okay, so if I want to have Arun also to have the same style, what I can do is I can again come over here, type style, and copy this entire code from here and paste it over here and save it. And now you can see both Arun and Shivraj have the same style, right? But don't you think this will be too complicated if there are many elements such that like this? Okay, so let's say there are 100 elements, so you have to do this 100 times. Okay, so that is where you come to this particular style tag. Okay, so in style tag, the first thing that you should do is uh, either any queries? No. Okay, so in the style tag, the first thing that you should do is select the element. Okay, so now we will see how what are the different ways of selecting. Okay, but the first and the foremost and the easiest way of selecting is by giving the name of the element that you want to select. Okay, so in this case you want to select div, right? So if you want to select div, I will just write div. That's it. Okay, so this selects the what do you say, the element div. Okay, all the elements that are div. Okay, and then you have to start with curly braces. Okay, and inside this you can put all your CSS code. Okay, so when you do put anything over here, that will apply to all the div in your page. Okay, so let me just copy this from here and paste it, and let me just remove these two lines. Okay, this also I will remove, and this also I will remove. Okay, so now I don't have anything in the style attribute. Now everything is in the style tag. Okay, so I have added this And just for visual simplicity, I will just uh, keep one parameter in one line. Okay, and if I save, you can see I get the exact same result. Okay, so this is the shortcut way of doing the same thing. Okay, so let me add a few more okay, so I have added, you can see the more the number of tags I add, you can see that all the classes, or sorry, all the elements are getting that particular style. Okay, so that is because I have done a selection, a broad selection of div. Okay, so whatever div I put, that will come over here. Okay, so let me put one more. Okay, so I have added another tag, that is p tag, and now you can see the p tag does not take the effect of these two colors. Okay, the reason, it is affected only to all the divs. Okay, so now once we know this, now let's suppose I want to color the paragraph also. Okay, so for that I can just come down over here and select the paragraph tag, and I can say color green. And you can see as soon as I do that, now my paragraph has a green color, right? It is that simple. So once this is done, now next we will see the third method, that is the method where we are going to see external style sheets. Okay, so the third method in which yeah, I have this inline method. This is called the inline method. This is using the style tag, and the third method is external style sheets. Okay, now external style sheets are very popular, and in most of the websites you will find external style sheets only. Okay, and that is the common standard of developing a website using external style sheets. Okay, now let me show you first how you create an external style sheet, and then I will show you the advantage of using external style sheet. Okay, so let's create another file. Okay, so let's create another file, let's say main.css. Okay, so this is the css file that I've created, main.css. Okay, and let's take the code from here. Okay, so I have these two code. Let's take that, I will cut this from here and paste it over here. Okay, that's it. So I have taken this and I have pasted it into main.css, and let me save it. Now let's see what happens. So now you can see what has happened is uh, now I want to this particular style is removed. Okay, because I have copied all the style from this style tag to the main.css. Okay, so all the style is over here, but now when I save this file, nothing is applied over here. Okay, so everything has is vanished. Now that is because I have made the css file, but I have not linked it to this particular index.html. Okay, so the external css does not work unless you link it. Okay, now to link it, you just have to do link and then give the name of the style sheet. Okay, now in our case the name of the style sheet is main.css. Okay, and you can see as soon as I save, all the styles come back. Okay, so this is how you can use external style sheets. Okay, now obviously you can give here absolute path also and relative path also. Okay, so in our case we have used here relative path because the main.css is in the same folder as index.html. Okay, but in real world scenarios, what we normally do is we create a folder called css. Okay, and all our css goes inside this particular folder. We never keep our css file floating outside in the source code, in the main folder. Okay, root folder. So what we do is we create a file folder called css, and we copy all the contents from the root to the CSS folder. Okay, so let me move it, and now you can see now my contents are much more organized. So all I personally like to organize all my contents so that it does not make a mess in my root directory. Okay, so you can see my index.html is there, and the CSS is inside the CSS folder. Okay, if I just open it, you can see inside CSS there is main.css. Okay, so now if I come back, you can see the style is again gone. Okay, that is because I have changed the directory of the main.css. Okay, so now to fix this, I can just type css and slash main.css. Okay, so this is what the location of my style sheet is. Okay, now you can see I have added a main.css. Okay, now let me open main.css, press save as. Okay, and main.css2. Okay, main2.css. Okay, I'm saving this file as main2.css. So now I have two files. Okay, if I just open this, you can see inside CSS I have two files. One is main.css and another is main2.css. Okay, now let me show you what is the advantage of having external style sheets rather than inline styles or using the style tag. Okay, so what is the advantage, why people use external style sheets? Okay, now let's suppose in main2 CSS I slightly change the color. Okay, so let this be green and let this be red, and let the text color of this be blue. Okay, so I have added this. Okay, so I have changed the color theme. Okay, now you must have referred some websites where there are different themes in the website. Okay, in fact recently in our CMSs also I have added theming option. Okay, if you go to update profile, you can see there you can select your theme, right? So how did I do that? Okay, so for that what I've done is I have created multiple such CSS files. Okay, and I've changed the colors. Okay, so now if I want to select a different theme, all I have to do is add before that, all I have to do is change the name of the file. Okay, so let me do it main2.css. so now you can see just by replacing this by main2.css, now you have a different set of colors. Okay, so you can understand the advantage of using external style sheets. Okay, so you can anytime change the color theme, or you can change the complete structure of your website. If everything your page or all the looks of your page is done using external style sheets, then you can easily change the color, look and feel of your website anytime you want. Okay, you can have multiple look and feel for the same website. Okay, so that is the advantage. And another thing is you can have multiple style sheets applied. Okay, so let me duplicate it. Okay, let me duplicate this line, and I'm including main.css as well as main2.css. Okay, so can anybody tell me, I have not saved it yet. Okay, can anybody tell me which file will take precedence? Okay, which whether the color in the main will be reflected or color in the main2 will be reflected? Any ideas? Main2, Rehan, Hussein, Aftab, everybody is saying main2. That is exactly correct. Yeah, one thing to remember is if the same style is applied in various files, okay, the same style is applied in all these files, then it will be always going to be uh, the style which is coming last. Okay, so in our case you can see main is coming first and then main2 is coming. Okay, so whatever main has done, that has been changed by main2. So now you can see main2 is taking into effect. Okay, now let me just change the order. Let me take main2 on top and main bottom. Okay, you can see immediately now main takes the precedence. Okay, So this is how you can have multiple style sheets and you can change the look and feel of the website. Okay. Now let me just bring this down. Okay. Now the second important thing is, okay, I have this. Okay, I have the color, everything is set. Okay, by with the help of main.css now. Okay, now if I put style over here, okay, that means if I change the style using the style tag, what will happen? Okay, which one will take effect? Okay, so let me change the color completely to something new. Background color blue, and sorry, color blue and background color pink. Okay, and text color, let's take something light. Okay, so now I have done this. So what do you think, which one will take effect? Whether we have understood that it will main will take effect if there are two styles. Okay, the one that comes after that will take effect. Now what about if a style tag is used, which one will take effect? Whether main will take effect or external style sheets will take effect, or the style tag will take effect? Style tag, very good. So if I save it, you can see now everything changes to the color that is mentioned in the style tag. Okay, now let me do one more thing, one last thing. Okay, now let me write something over here. Okay, let's say color red. Okay, so when I do this, what do you think, which will take effect? Whether it will be external style tag or inline, which one will take effect? Okay, that's perfectly right. It's always the highest precedence goes to the inline styles. Okay, so if you mention the inline styles, then there is no going back. Okay, so you cannot change the color with the help of external style sheets. Okay, there is a way, but let's say we should not use that. I will tell you later how you can change it, but this is the way it is. Okay, so the highest precedence is using the style attribute. Okay, so inline, this is called as a inline style. Okay, so this is having the highest precedence, then comes the style tag. Okay, then comes the external style sheets. Okay, and inside external style sheets also, whatever comes at the end, the last style takes the highest precedence. Okay, so this you have to understand very carefully, otherwise it will create a lot of confusion that how the things are changing. Okay, now one important thing to understand is when we are learning when we are learning CSS, it is fine to add inline style sheets. Okay, inline styles, it is absolutely fine. But once you start developing your code, or once you start developing your software, never use inline or style tag. Okay, try to avoid it. The reason is, if you want to change anything, then you have to change the entire source code, because if you know the git, uh, if you know git, then you can understand that you will be changing the index.html file directly. Okay, and it is possible that you can mess up something in the HTML. You while deleting, you may delete some HTML tags, and everything can go haywire. Okay, so it is better you don't use inline styles wherever possible, and style tag. Okay, wherever possible you try to avoid it, and always use external style sheets. Okay, now what do you think, which one is better out of these three? Which one should we use more often? Inline style, I've already said we should use external, but according to you, which one should you use? Inline or style tag or external? Which one would you prefer? external. Okay, so some of you are saying external, but do you find any disadvantage of using external style sheet? Are there any disadvantage of using external style sheet? Okay, Rehan Ali is saying if we have to apply just one or two styles, we are have to create a whole new file. Okay, Rehan, this is just an example. That's why there are only two styles. But actually, the styles page will be very big. Okay, so that is not a problem. Um, if the path is not correct, it won't work. Okay, that is also a good answer. Any other answers to this? Which one is any disadvantages to external style sheets? Little more difficult to see where the effect is taking place. Okay, there can be confusion. Okay, okay, so the actual answer is that I was expecting, all these are also correct, but the actual example is the overload on the uh, browser. Okay, let me just show you. Okay, if I do an inspect element and let me go to network tab. Okay, and let me refresh. Okay, can you see um, it is not showing over here. Okay, now I think we are using HTML version 2. Okay, so now usually if you are working on older browsers, what will happen is you will load this HTML. Okay, in HTML version 2, this problem is resolved. Everything is transferred in a single channel. But if you are using, okay, so now what actually happens is when you load this HTML, okay, in older versions of HTTP protocol, what happens is when you load this HTML, it will read the HTML from top to bottom, and it will find that what all things it has to load externally. Okay, and it will find that, okay, I have to load, now I have to download main2.css. Okay, so now it will send another request to the server to get the file main2.css. Okay, then it will come down, it will come to this line, and it will find that, okay, another file has to be downloaded, it's called main.css. So it will again send another request to get the file main.css. Okay, so because all this thing is in the head, so unless all the files are downloaded, your body will not be visible. Okay, so till that time you will see that a loading sign going on in your browser. Okay, so that is the main drawback of having CSS files. Okay, so usually what we do in CSS is, usually when we start developing, we are very eager to write uh, many CSS files. Okay, so one will be for only colors, one will be for maybe the layout, one will be for and sometimes it happens such that you create one CSS file for one HTML file. So you can imagine you have 10 100 HTML5, you have 100 CSS files. So loading these many CSS files will be very difficult for the browser. So nowadays what the uh, developers do is we use something called as Webpack. Okay, now in Webpack what we do is we try to you are free to use how many ever CSS files you want, but at the end you will have to compile it down. And what that compilation does is it takes all the CSS, combines it, and makes it into one big CSS file. Okay, and that you can include in your final code. So what it does is it reduces the load on the server by reducing the number of files it has to serve. Okay, So that is the idea behind this. Okay. Now, any doubts still here? Now I have just introduced you how these things work. Okay, how the different types of style sheets work. Okay, so there is external, then there is using the style tag, and then there is inline, and inline has the highest precedence. Okay, any doubts still here? Okay, uh, now next part is now if you look at this over here, when I do div, it selects everything, but I don't want that. I don't want everything to be selected. Okay, I just want a particular div to be selected. Okay, so let's say I want to color my name only. Okay, so I want to give a red color to my name. Okay, and I don't want to do anything to others. Okay, so how to do it? Right now I cannot do it because I can do it with inline styles. Okay, like for example in this case, uh, if I do this, let me remove this part. Okay, let me save it and let me, okay, if I use inline styles, you can see I can do it, right? But I don't want, as I already told you, I don't want to use inline styles. Okay, so I'm going to remove this from here. Okay, let us remove. I am never going to use inline styles as much as possible. Okay, so I don't have inline styles, so this is not an option. Then how can I do it? Okay, so again, just for simplicity, I'm going to show it over here. I'm not going to do it over here in future, right? So now if I want to select this particular div, then what I can do is I have multiple methods. Okay, so the first method is uh, to select, since Shiburaj is the first element. Okay, so what I can do is right now I'm not showing you pseudo classes. Okay, so pseudo selectors I'm not showing you right now, that will be too much for this particular introductory section. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I want to select a specific div. Okay, so for that what you have to do is you have to give an identity to this particular div. Okay, now how to give identity to a particular div? With the help of id tag. Okay, so we have seen this id tag before also. Okay, so you can give id to any tag, anything in the html page you can give, anything inside the body tag you can give the id tag. Okay, so let's give id tag, let's call it Shibu Raj. Okay, so I have given the name, the id is Shibu Raj. Okay, now I want to select this particular element with the help of id. Okay, so how to do it in css? For that, you just have to, whenever it is an id, you should remember that you should if it's an id, you should start with hash. Okay, hash and then the name of the id. The name of the id is Shiburaj. And now if I save it, you can see only Shiburaj is getting this particular style. Okay, now let me just remove everything and let me remove this also. Okay, so I don't want these two external style sheets, and let me remove this also and this also. Okay, so I just want the color red over here. Okay, and you can see now I am getting an exact match. So hash means id and this is the name of the id. Okay, so now I can select exactly whichever div I want. Okay, so let's suppose I want to select oranges. Okay, so how will I select an orange? So again, I have to give an ID to this. And one thing to remember, ID should be unique throughout the page. Okay, so in the entire page, there should not be two same IDs. Okay, so let's give them orange. Okay, so I have given the ID as orange. Okay, it has nothing to do with this name. Huh? You can put anything over here, right? So I have selected orange. Now I can do hash orange, and here I can give, let's say, color green. Okay, so you can see now orange is selected and I have given oranges the color. green. Okay. Now, okay. So now what I want to do is, this is fine. We have understood how to select a specific div, use div or any element using the ID attribute. Okay. So ID is used to select a specific tag. Okay. Now let us suppose I have a different requirement. You can see that here you have two names of a person and two names of a fruit. Okay. So I want to select the fruits together and names together. Okay. So what should I do? Okay. So whenever there are multiple such elements to be selected, you should use something called as class. Okay. So let's give a class to this. Okay. And the class is again the next attribute, and the class can be repeated any number of times in a page. Okay. So that is the beauty of class. Class is not need not be unique. So class can be repeated any number of times. Okay. So let's suppose I call this class as names. Okay. And let's give the same class to Arun also. Okay. And whenever I want to select a class, the way of doing it is, instead of hash, it starts with dot. Okay. So this is very important. Whenever you want to select an ID, you use hash, and whenever you want to select class, you use dot. Okay. And then the name of the class, that is names. Okay. And save. You can see now wherever this class is applied, all of them have become red. Okay. So the Shiburaj is also having names and Arun is also having names. Okay. So you can see both of them having red color. Okay. Similarly, I can make a class of fruits. Okay. So let's do that. So class fruits, and the same class I will give it to class fruits. Okay. And once this is done, now I can select it. Okay. So now to select it, I will use dot fruits. Okay. And I can give a green color. If I save it, you can see both these elements get the green color. Okay. Any doubts still here? Okay. Shabina is asking, can we apply two ID at the same time? Why would you do that? Okay. The whole purpose of ID is to uniquely identify, right? But you don't have to put two IDs. Okay. So why would you have two names for yourself, right? You may have a pet name, but then pet name is like class. That pet name can be there for everybody, right? So it is like that. You don't need to have two names. Okay. Two IDs. Okay. But I've never personally tried it. Let's try it. Okay. Let's see if it works. ID. Let's take another what do you say, Shibu. Okay. Personally, I have also never tried this particular part. Okay. So let's give two IDs. Okay. And first of all, let's select it. Okay. So let me just let me remove this and do hash Shibu. Save. Okay. So it doesn't work. Red is not applied to both of them. And let me try Shibu Raj, and now it works. Okay. So only the first ID is considered. Okay. So by default, what I have been following is, I never give two IDs to any particular element. Okay. You can have, internal child elements. You can have another ID. Okay. So you can have ID inside ID. Like for example, you have a div. Inside that div, you have another div. Okay. So here you can have another ID. That is allowed. Okay, so every element can have a unique ID, but you cannot have two IDs in the same div. Any other queries? So can we apply style to two ID at the same time? Yes, yes, we can do that. That is the next part I will show you. Okay, so I have now you can see I have names as the class, Shiburaj as the ID, and I have orange as the another ID. Okay, so now let's suppose let me just change this to dot names. Okay, so you can see names are red color and this is green color. Okay, now I want to change the colors of Shiburaj and oranges to some other color. Okay, so how should I do that? Okay, so obviously I can do this dollar Shiburaj and let's say color, let's select aquamarine. Okay, you can see my color is changed. Okay, now I will duplicate this and let me call it orange, and if I save it now, this is okay. This also is changed, but repeating this twice is not a good idea. So whenever you have the same code, CSS code, okay, so this is my CSS code. So if you have the same CSS code to be applied to multiple elements, okay, so you can separate it by comma and put. Okay, so like for example I have Shiburaj, after that you can put a comma and put the next one, that is, let's say, orange. Okay, and that's it. If you save, you can see I get the same result. Okay, so I have both these things selected as oranges. Okay, so it is not necessary that you have to put ID only, you can put any selector. Okay, like for example I can have dot fruits. Okay, so what I've done is in the first place I have put the ID of Shiburaj, and the second place I have put the class as fruits. Okay, so if I save it, now you can see the first name and these two fruits, both of them have the same what do you say, color. Okay, if you want you can go ahead and do comma p, that is for paragraph. So if there are any paragraphs in the page, that will also be colored as. So this comma is very important when you have the same amount of uh, CSS code to be applied to multiple elements, then you can use this comma tag. Okay, any doubts still here? Let us see the last part for today. Okay, so I have a list element. Okay, now I want to select the let me give this let us say ID. Okay, so let me call it numbers. Okay, so this is the ID for this UL. Okay, I want to color this particular all these LIs. Okay, so how to color, how to give color to this, but all this LIs. Okay, so for that what you can do is you can come down over here. Now it is an ID, right? So you have to use hash numbers. Okay, and then you have to select the LIs, right? Now when you want to select a child of a parent, then you have to separate it with space. Okay, so I will do space and put LI. Okay, so now what this does is it is actually selecting the UL. Hash numbers means I'm selecting UL. Inside that I want to actually select LI, but LI did not had any class or ID assigned to it, but its parent had a ID, right? So I have selected the parent, and inside that I used a space to tell CSS that I want to get the child and not the parent. Okay, so I am getting all the parents which has the tag li. Okay, so now if I say, okay, first of all let me give a color of blue violet. Okay, now if I save it, you can see now all the elements are having the color blue violet. Okay, any doubts still here, whatever we have covered till now? Yeah, Hussein Painter is asking, what if we just write li? Very good question. If we just write li, that will exactly work. Okay, so if I just remove everything and if I save it, you can see it still works. But the problem is, what if I have two ULs? Okay, okay, so I have now two LIs, sorry, two ULs. Now, if you do LI, you can see what is the problem. Okay, now I wanted to select only the numbers. Okay, so these LIs I want to select, right? So that is the problem, that whenever you give a general tag name, it will select everything in the page. Okay, so everything with that tag name will be selected, but I didn't want that. I wanted only the numbers to be selected. Okay, so the LIs which are under numbers. Okay, so for that you have to add a unique identifier hash numbers and then this. Now if I save, you can see now only this part is selected, not the second one. Okay, so this is very important to understand how to select different elements. Once you are comfortable, there are many more things you can do with selectors. I'm not covering everything right now, otherwise you will get confused. As and when we proceed, I will show you more methods of selection, right? But for 80% of your work, this much is enough. Okay, these things are enough for you to design a page. Okay, there are few more things that selectors there are few more selectors that we will study later, but for the time being this much is enough. Okay, any queries before we finish this session?